In recent years, Russia has been demonstrating renewed political activity in the Middle East and North Africa, taking an independent position on a range of issues, which clashed with sometimes with the preferences of the United States. It most clearly demonstrated in Syria. However, in same occasions, Moscow policies even helped Washington and others. For example, in the autumn of 1213, when Americans was already preparing to strike Syria, but Obama didn't want to do this, Russia, frankly speaking, have saved the face of Obama. And Russia promoted the initiative of destroying Syria's stockpile of chemical weapons, and this proposal proved beneficial to many countries, including Israel. Russia has good relationship with Israel and going to keep this level of mutual understanding. The same time as we think there will be no stability in the Middle East until the problem of Palestine will be solved. Russia strongly understands that to have good relationship in Israel and both Palestinians is very important to Moscow. It means for Russia to stand on two legs in the Middle East. During Soviet time, for some years, we didn't have the diplomatic relationship, unfortunately, with Israel. And it meant for us to stand only on one leg in the Middle East, and it was not very comfortable. There are many friends of Russia in Israel, and I felt that Mr. and Professor Efraim Anbar is a good friend of Russia, as I know, because only a good friend can speak so much and a lot and with such great interest about Russia. I appreciate this, and it was very interesting. But sometimes we feel that in the region somebody look to Russia as the main anti-American power and try to play on this to their own advantage, especially some Arabs. They're always trying to play on contradictions between America and Russia, as they used to do this during Soviet time. But Soviet time has gone. Russia now is another country. And Russia really can say no to America, but doesn't want to start the new edition of Cold War again. Russia doesn't want to see the new Cold War, and it will not happen. Especially now, after the victory of Donald Trump, the new president of America, Russia is proposing the strong bilateral and international cooperation against terror, against Daesh, Al-Qaeda, and other organizations. And this is strongly necessary because the things in the region and in all the world will be much worse than now. We understand then this, and it will be the case the same in the Eastern Mediterranean and in other parts of the world. There will be more chaos and anarchy, and we can't exclude appearance of new hotspots. For example, in some states of ex-Soviet Union in Central Asia, it's possible. For example, we discuss now challenges in the Middle East and the Eastern Mediterranean. Even from a demographic point of view, this is a big challenge for all of us, for Israel, for Arab countries, and for Russia as a strong player in this region. In the 1990, as UN have declared, the population of 22 Arab countries was 215 million people. After 22 years, at 2012, by UN also, it started to be 363 million people. 22 of them live in Egypt. So during 22 years, the increasing was by 65%. included in Egypt by 43%, Libya 44%, and in Syria even 75%. Unemployment in most of these countries usually is about 30% and even more. I think it's a very strong challenge for all of us, and all last events and revolutions and wars in the Middle East that began in 2011 have confirmed a very alarming circumstance. The international community is not capable of responding to the new problems that are arising. Contradictions between Russia and the US, together with Europe alongside it have raised the alarm in the Kremlin over how its future position in the fast-changing world will be defined. At the same time, a stimulus to action for Moscow in the region has been created by geopolitical considerations, the need to respond to the developing threat of terrorism, and the drive to preserve the system of international rights that arose after the Second World War. And we see this in Russia especially, because the main interest of Russia in Syria is to see back stability in this country, and I think that the interest of Israel is the same. Russia is acting more decisively than China, which even when it occupies similar positions, prefers to remain in the shadow. And unlike United States, Moscow continues to maneuver between the need to preserve balanced links with the Arabs, the Persians, the Israelis, and Turks. And believe me, it's not easy talk. It's maybe more easy for somebody in some other countries to say, to declare that some country is fake news and something is fake, but it's very difficult to keep the balance between all these countries. And Moscow will continue to do this. Critics, some Arabs among them, sometimes accuse Russia of siding with the Shiites, of becoming a spoke in the Shiite axis. Even I read some articles describing Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, Ayatollah Lavrov. These unjust charges are explained by the fact that some Arabs are negatively disposed towards the partnership between Russia and Iran, as well as they support for the government of Syria. Yes, this is Moscow. As Minister of Foreign Affairs Lavrov stated in January before Astana talks, that Moscow that saved Damascus, Moscow that saved Syrian government. And Moscow intervened in Syrian conflict in a very decisive moment and saved Damascus, which was 2 weeks away from being captured by opposition. But Moscow saved Syria as a sovereign country and as also a secular country. And it's also strongly important for all this region. In some articles, one can encounter old positions, for example, Sunni America and Europe against Shiite Russia. China is sometimes included here. These authors justify this position on the basis that Russia supports Syria and Iran, while Europe and the United States support Sunni states such as Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Turkey. But they forgot that Russia has a quite good relationship with Saudi Arabia, with Qatar. We have a huge investment now from Qatar, $1 billion in our oil and gas sector. And in the strange way, they forget that Egypt, this old Russia's partner, it's not Shiite, but mostly Sunni country, like Turkey as well. And we think that our relationship with Turkey is very important, And Astana process is also very important because this is a very important attempt to do something in Syria, to see the stability coming back to this country. I think it's possible, but it's not possible only by Russian efforts. It's possible by mutual efforts, by joint cooperation between all effective players in the Middle East. Barack Obama administration wasn't effective player in the Middle East and in Syria, but now we see a new president, President Trump, and that signals that it's possible to build very effective cooperation, at least against terror in Syria, maybe Iraq, maybe Libya. And as it was mentioned this morning, Russia did well in Syria. Russia not in a hurry to repeat the same thing in Libya, but with others, Russia can do well also in Libya. And it's important to remember that Russia, on the contrary of some rhetoric now in the United States, has always warned against the danger of religious conflicts. We are not interested in religious conflicts. And Russia always has stood for the protection of national and religious communities. For example, the position of the Christian minority is very grave in Syria, as well as Druze minority, and yet the international community has not paid enough attention to this issue. In no way does Russia, with some between 13 to 20 million Muslims at home, and most of them are Sunni, wish to be immersed in interreligious conflicts in the Middle East. This is very dangerous. There are many Muslims in Russia and in other countries also. So to conclude, rather, Moscow is concerned to maintain, insofar as this is possible, the balance of power and relationships in the Middle East. And thank you very much for your attention. Спасибо.